All right, now it is my pleasure for those of you that are looking to navigate the cannabis industry, the real estate side, to welcome to the stage from the Cannabis Attorneys of Michigan, partner Mike DiLaura. Mike DiLaura, come on stage and let's give him a warm welcome. Come on, guys.
Thank you all very much for having me out tonight, or today I should say. I know it's been a long day and that you have all been rapidly paying attention. We've learned a ton today, from how to go public to how to build a brand to how to organize your data, and now we're going to talk about real estate, because in the state of Michigan, or really any state, if you're going to operate within this space, you need space. You got to have some real estate. So with me today is Mr. Nick Calkins. Nick, come on up. Nick is the, come on, get that applause, all right. With me today is Nick Calkins. Nick is a fantastic attorney and a good friend as well. He is the general counsel for Cannabis Property Brokers of Michigan, and there is nobody in the state of Michigan that has bought and sold more property than Cannabis Property Brokers of Michigan. So we thought he would be a fantastic addition to come on out. Let's pick his brain for a few minutes today, learn a little bit more about the Michigan cannabis real estate space. Nick, thanks for joining us, man. How are you?
Thanks for having me, Mike.
Fantastic.
Absolutely well. How are you?
Very well. All right, so let's talk about some of the basics, okay?
Okay.
And I know we're in front of a very sophisticated audience today, so
Absolutely.
I don't want to waste too much of our precious time on it. But
Sure.
I tell you, the number one call I get is, Mike, I'm licensed, I'm pre-qualified, now what do I do? How do I find real estate? Nick, help.
So, I mean, fantastic that you've gotten that far, right? Pre-qualification from the state, at least a period of time ago, was one of the difficult barriers to get through to get into this market. If I were you and if I were me and I get that call, as I used to be in private practice, I'm going to say give Cannabis Property Brokers a call. These guys know exactly what they're doing. But aside from that, you have to understand there's a very, very select few number of municipalities in the state of Michigan that are even in this space right now, right? We have over 1,700 municipalities in the state. A fraction of those have opted into MMFLA, and an even smaller realm of those are going to take part, at least in the near future, in the MRTMA or the recreational market. So with less than 10% of those municipalities, location is key. Location is key when it comes to residential, when it comes to traditional use under commercial real estate, but this is even more important. And before we really get into the nitty-gritty and the nuances of MMFLA real estate, I want to take everyone back to the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act, right? This is what got everything started. Nobody would be sitting here today if it weren't for the Michigan Medical Marijuana Act. For a period of time, you could open up a storefront, and if you had marijuana on the shelves, you're going to be making money. This thing is going to be a money-making machine, right? That's not the case anymore. One of the most important things I think that people need to understand is the supply chain with regard to the marijuana market in Michigan. You have to have a fantastic geographic location. You have to understand specifically, if you're in the grow or if you're in the processing side of things, where's your distribution outlet at, right? Who are going to be your secure transporters? Who are going to be your safety compliance facilities that are testing your material? And how does that eat into your profit margins? So I'm sure that you get this call all the time, and people say, hey, Mike, I'm coming from out of state. Maybe California, maybe Colorado. We're having trouble now. We want to get into Michigan. Michigan's the second largest market in terms of overall population ratio to patient ratio, right? And the call seems to go in a certain direction like, but I want to be in Detroit. Or I want to have a 45-minute drive to work. And that's fine and dandy. I don't want to beat the rush hour traffic either, but you have to understand the supply chain is really, really important. Those logistics could really give you that competitive advantage when you're deciding how to get into this market and, more importantly, how to stay in this market.
Okay, so what I'm hearing is location is everything, and that we certainly need to pay attention to the supply chain and how you're going to be moving product in and out of your facility, particularly if you're a co-located, vertically integrated facility. Would that be accurate?
That would be accurate. If you're lucky enough to be vertically integrated, fantastic, right? If you're not one of the bigger players in Michigan, my opinion is that you're going to have a chance at succeeding in this market.
Okay, so if that's some of the basic stuff, let's go to the next level. Like I said, we're here with men and women, many of whom are licensed, a lot of sophisticated investors. Let's talk about this interplay between medical and rec and finding that place to open up. I know you guys are one of the best in the state at finding these municipalities before anybody else does and finding some properties here. What are some of the methods that you use to identify a municipality that is about to opt in or otherwise allow for properties to be used under either the adult use or the MMFLA?
I mean, it's really quite simple, right? This is not some magic trick that we use. This is keep your eyes open, keep your ears open, call those city clerks, pay attention to the city council meetings. If they're talking about zoning amendments or text amendments, get there, go to the meetings, talk to the planning commission guys. They know where this stuff is headed. Keep your feet on the ground, keep the calls moving, and CannaRegs is actually a really, really good resource that we also use. They are pretty up to date on what's going on in the state. They'll let you know if there's a meeting happening, and we want to get in front of those people. And obviously, we also have another route that if the municipalities don't want to opt in under the MRTMA and the MMFLA, we can push them to opt in with a ballot initiative.
Okay, so there are different methods that we can go about using to get a municipality to opt in. And I know our firm has been fairly successful with both lobbying individual cities to opt in for both recreational and medical. The recreational is still really in process, but it is something we can do as well as ballot initiatives. So, but kind of moving on again, I'm trying to get deeper and deeper into this. Now let's talk about value. Okay, because that seems to be the $64,000 question. What's a property worth with the, quote, cannabis bonus, if you will, that you might be paying?
Right.
And then again, for the men and women out here listening, what about this idea of I have a property, it's permitted, what's it worth? How do I sell it? Who should I sell it to? What kind of offers are going around? Talk to me about the market. What do you see it?
So, and I think everybody's experiencing this right now, but the market is not what it used to be, right? I think things are going to move upward, things are going to keep going, but right now we don't have a lot of deals closing, right? I worked previously with a lot of these private equity firms. They would come into the state of Michigan, they'd make a lot of promises, they'd tie up a lot of properties, and then they'd shop the market, right? They wouldn't close on the deals. So right now you're not seeing a lot of deals closing, especially from those that what you want to see as cash buyers. You're seeing a lot of offerings at a cash split. A lot of times it's 80-20, especially for the publicly traded companies. And of course, they don't want to take all the risk. I understand that. There's models where they might come in and you might be able to negotiate some type of a bonus structure, right? Wherein, hey, the buyer is going to take some of the risk, but the seller is going to take a little bit of the risk. So if I'm operating or if I'm not, maybe I have a stake wherein my bonus or part of the piece of the pie that I'm going to get as a seller depends on how well you end up doing overall as a business in your run rate, maybe in the first 6 months, 12 months, or a long-term thing. Maybe it's a JV opportunity for that seller as well.
So would you say that many of the deals, particularly the multi-property deals that you're working on, and I know this goes for the deals that we're working on with our clients, are this blend of cash, a note, and stock? Would you say that that is sort of the new method of consideration in a cannabis real estate deal?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I think that people have smartened up, right? I think the honeymoon phase is over. I wish that wasn't the case given our business model, but I think the honeymoon phase is absolutely over. And I think there's a lot of opportunities besides a straight cash deal that's going to be really beneficial for both the buyer and the seller to take on.
Okay. So as you're looking for these properties, and now you found one, and we're talking about the values, explain to me this discrepancy, because you guys have properties available for sale. We know that the market is soft on cash buyers right now, but we also know, and I think everybody in this room knows, that every single municipality throughout this state that has opted in and allowed for these facilities is full. There's no extra facilities out there. All the permits have been issued. So what's going on, Nick? You know, how is it that all of the permits are gone and that everyone has real estate and wants to move forward, but the purchases aren't going through? What do you think's going on in the market that can explain that?
Look, I think that some municipalities took the approach of let's jump on this, right? There's revenue to be made. There's obviously tax incentives. There's jobs incentives. There's rural areas that would absolutely love that influx of revenue. But then a lot of these guys, 90% of them, took that backseat approach. I don't want to necessarily jump into this. We don't know what it's going to look like long term. Let's not be the guinea pigs. So that's the problem that we're dealing with right now. Granted, we're on the cusp of something huge, right? I know that we're, granted, through that honeymoon phase of the MMFLA, right? But the state of Michigan has kind of started to get their act together. I'd like to use a different word, but we're up on stage. I think we've all experienced a lot of frustration with the state, moving applications along, getting people licensed.
Well, it's a tough job. I mean, it's not every day that a state tries to turn a, multi-billion-dollar black market into something that's acceptable. I mean, the quickest growing demographic for cannabis use and sales in the state of Michigan, based on the numbers that I've recently seen, are men and women over the age of 50 that have never used before. I know, as a personal anecdote, my mother, 7 years old, not a user, just got her card recently in the last few weeks and has gone out and checked out stores.
Okay.
So we're seeing the marketplace shift a little bit, and more people come into the marketplace, which should lead to the need for more locations and more municipalities opting in. But I can't seem to get over this discrepancy that the municipalities are out of permits. I'm getting phone calls every day saying, Mike, I need a place to operate, and yet there's property sitting out there that haven't been sold yet. Do you think that this is a financing issue? I mean, we all know some of the issues with applying for and attempting to get traditional financing. That is closed. Is it really, this conference and the men and women, the connections we're trying to make here today, the catalyst to getting some of these deals open so that these customers, these clients and patients, particularly this new growing demographic, has a place where they can spend their money? I mean, is that really what we're talking about? Is it a financing issue?
I think it's in part a financing issue, but you'd be really surprised to see how many municipalities are interested in opting in, but just don't have the foundational knowledge to write the zoning ordinance, to make the licensing ordinance. Their city attorney's a little bit hesitant. They're talking to other nearby municipalities. If they opted out, they might want to follow suit, or like I said before, just kind of hang back and see what happens. So I think it's a big hybrid of the financing issue, but also just this trepidation as to this market that obviously has a huge stigma attached, and it's this wait and see approach. And unfortunately right now, it's a roller coaster ride that we've experienced, and we're kind of at the bottom end of that. We're just waiting for others to open up. But really, calling your municipality, talking to your city clerk, like I said, going to those city council meetings and really being active and understanding why it is that they're hesitant to opt in, you might be able to find the solution. Bring somebody with some clout in the area to add some credibility to what you're putting forward, right? The guys who show up in suits in some of these areas, they're just not going to take your word. They think you're there for nothing but making money off of their small town and have no interest in really investing some real money and bringing it back into their community. So, like I said, it's not a very difficult method. Keep it simple, attend those meetings, and talk to them and see what their feelings are and what might get them over that hurdle so that they are willing to opt in. Maybe for MMFLA, because I think a lot of people are more willing to go the medical route. They think it's more justified than having recreational stores and all of the problems that they believe will come along with having recreational stores in their area.
Well, I think it's really sound advice. Nick, we've got a few minutes left, and one last thing I wanted to talk with you about is kind of putting your crystal ball, or gazing into the crystal ball, if you will. What do you see what's happening next? I mean, we have seen a wave over the last 18 months of different municipalities opting in. Now we're seeing this wave of recreational. We've seen merit-based applications, first come, first serve applications, lottery applications from municipalities.
Right.
What works best in your mind? What should the average buyer or investor be looking for? What is the best bet from a municipality on both sides, both from the municipality perspective as well as from the investor perspective?
So, and as you know, under recreational, if we're going to cap the number of licenses in a municipality, then we have to go with a merit-based system, right? I guess if you get more applications, then you have the number of licenses, which is a no-brainer to me. I was at a city council meeting the other day, and they deemed that type of model a legal minefield. Because I think you and I both know the merit-based applications are very susceptible to what we would think to be corrupt scoring, favoritism, and things of that nature. So personally, I really love the lottery systems from the buyer standpoint and from the municipality standpoint because it's fair across the board. You can't cheat the system. I don't like the merit-based systems, but really what's the best for both is an implicit cap based on zoning, right? Figure out what you want the buffers to be, because in the ordinances that we review, we always see these buffers. You got to have a facility that's so many feet away from a school, so many feet away from a church, so many feet away from a park, a substance abuse center. The list can go on, right? And that buffer zone, it can be really different municipality to municipality. So if they want to have a certain number of establishments, just figure out what they want to do from a zoning perspective. It won't create an express cap. It's going to be implicit. You don't have to go with the merit-based system. And in my mind, it's kind of a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, and I would agree with you. I think that the lotto system that I've seen play out in multiple cities seems to be the one that is the most fair with the Nixon quotes, whatever that happens to mean. But it also seems to be the easiest for the men and women in this field to work with. When we file these merit-based applications, so often, we put 50, 60, 100 man hours into putting something together, and it just goes into a black hole. You don't know what happens.
Right.
So we've only got a little bit of time left. I want to thank you very much. I do hope everyone learned a little bit today. We did learn a little bit about how important it is on the ground level to approach your municipality to find out the information that's going on there, as well as I believe how important it is to reach out to a professional, because there's so much going on with these different municipalities and the real estate, be it buffering zones or some logistical and transport issues that you want to talk about, that it is really going to benefit you to reach out to either Nick's firm, reach out to our firm, but to have someone there to help you out as you move through this process. I know Nick is available and they have properties for sale. I am available. I have advice for sale. Please, please, please don't hesitate to reach out to either one of us after, and thank you so much for your attention this afternoon.
All right. Nick and Mike.